Hey there, so today we have another beer talk, and we're talking about Beerland, a new show that is on Viceland.
Possibly a short-lived show.
We'll see. But it's a beer-related show from Meg Gill of Golden Road Brewery.
Right.
Bought out by AB InBev, but it's about her competition of going to different cities, finding multiple homebrewers, checking out their beers, and, you know, sort of understanding travel, lifestyle, has that kind of like wide range of qualities, and just meeting people, understanding their beer culture, and trying out their homebrews, and then choosing somebody from each episode to be part of their finale.
And then choosing someone in the finale to brew their beer at Golden Road to be canned and distributed TBD. We don't really know what the full details of that are, but
Sure. There you go. Chris from Beer Creek Nation already posted a video about it. He did not like the videos. But, yeah, I guess I'll start off with what Will has to say about the show. So I have my opinions about it.
Yeah, I mean, so my base level, and I'll stipulate that I've only seen about 4 or so of the episodes, including the finale.
Yeah, I've seen about 2.5 or almost 3.
They released them all onto YouTube, which is not a good sign.
And you can find them on Vice.
But you have to have like a cable login to access them on there. Or at least that's my experience with that site.
Okay, sure.
Whereas like a lot of their other content is not just so easily accessible. So my main criticism of the show is that for a show about homebrewing, which you've done with me here, you know what homebrewing is about, they do not, at a single point in the episodes I watched, talk about what it means to make beer, or how beer is made, or why the way one person made their beer is special or unique, or, you know, what's cool about it.
Yeah.
Which seems like a fundamental failure of a show about homebrewing and a competition, right? Like,
sure. There's a good amount of lack of just like talking about the beer, what makes this beer. It's just like, hey, here's a beer. Oh, I like it. It's fruity. And then boom. And then it moves on to other stuff about their life. Like, this one guy's a hockey player. This one guy's a cowboy. You know, like it plays on those kind of themes about TV and stuff.
It makes me wonder a lot about what was cut out of the show, and clearly, you know, she's there talking to these people about their beer. A great example being the dude in Brooklyn who probably lives within walking distance of where we are right now, who brews all spontaneously fermented beer, or not maybe fully spontaneous because he uses his magic log that he got in Prospect Park. Why not use that as a point to talk about like what wild beer is? And like, he holds the log up to her face and she smells it and she's like, that's crazy, that's amazing. And it's like, well, why? Because the bulk of the beer drinking population in this country probably has not had a spontaneous beer or a wild beer.
Almost everybody.
And it's like a really good opportunity to like educate and talk about like why this is cool, and like maybe the origins of beer, and how like just use it as an opportunity to like educate people and talk about those flavors. And it was either not discussed or it was completely cut out when the episode was edited together, and either way that's like a complete shame. It like doesn't do service to that guy who's clearly has a mission in his life, whether you agree with it or not. He's an anarchist.
Yeah. So my general opinion about the show is that it actually is not really our opinion that matters, because like we really are looking from the geeky side.
Sure.
So like,
sure.
I love Chef's Table, but like it really does not help you learn how to cook at all, or tell you anything about how to use technique or anything about cooking.
I would disagree
about the life and
I
inspiration.
would disagree a little bit, though.
Really? Like,
I mean, if I hadn't watched all those cooking shows, I wouldn't have bought like one of those Lenovo sous vide sticks.
Yes, but like if you watch Mind of a Chef, he actually goes through the recipe, whereas Chef's Table is just like, you know, this violin playing the whole time. It's like a really cool, right? Like, and like it's a different kind of mood. Whereas, you know, this show, I think, you know, we're geeking out and trying to look for something. And like now I really think about it. And the important thing to think about is that actually the full episodes on YouTube. So actually go on YouTube. You don't have to go on Vice. Go on YouTube. You can actually find full episodes. And one of the top comments of one of the recent episodes I watched was like, "This girl's personality is soap," and that's a big one for me. And I'm not trying to say that, you know, I'm so easy, like, oh shit, like we can do a great job on camera, but like this full season of TV, like there are people that I've noticed it all the time, that she's interviewing homebrewers, trying to explain their beer, and they're more enthusiastic and able to be attractive on camera than her kind of like it's the personality of a shoe. That's what it is.
Sure.
Personality of a shoe slash she's dry toast like
and
like, hey, your beer is good. Like that's my best invitation of what she can do.
I totally get that, but I don't I don't 100% fault her for that, because I feel like the bulk of the interactions where she comes off the worst sound like these very scripted moments. Like the biggest example to me is like in the Brooklyn episode, which is the first one I started with, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
I think they're at Strong Rope, which is this tiny little brewery in this area, and she's just like literally going up to people, asking them, hey, like, do you think beer brings people together, or like, would you be here if the beer wasn't good? She was like just asking them like these like totally lame questions, and there's like no way, as someone who is a professional in the beer world, that she would ever like conjecture that those were good questions to ask. Like it just reeks of like a show that is like overproduced by people who have no idea what they're talking about, and that she is just there for the paycheck. And you can totally fault her for that. Like, that's fair, but at the same time, like, we don't know like why she's doing the show, if she was compelled to do it by AB, if maybe she pitched the show but it got away from her and it was kind of like too late, she signed the contract. Like, there's like a whole bunch of reasons why she can come off that way, though she does consistently come off, you know, pretty wooden in her delivery. So there's probably something about maybe she doesn't feel natural in front of the camera, maybe the editing is not complimentary. But I wish that they had maybe put her more in her what I presume is her element, which is brewing beer, talking about beer. Like, why was that guy's like hops? Like, there was this scene in New Mexico where she's like, this guy like brewed an IPA or a pale ale with like all local hops.
Whole cone.
Whole cone hops, and she's like
she really liked it.
She's like, these hops are crazy. It's like,
like,
why are they crazy?
How'd you brew this into the beer? She's like, I love the hoppiness, and he got into the finals. But like, why is that so good, right?
And she's like, wow, this is like really amber. That's weird. Like, but it tastes so great. But it tastes so great. It's not a tasting note, you know.
I agree.
And like my inclination is that someone thought maybe that the geeky beer aspects of the show would go over the head of the people who are reviewing it.
I think that's generally
that stuff out of it.
No, I agree.
And so, I'm super hesitant to be like, Meg, you really screwed up here. Like, I don't think it's on her. I mean, maybe it's on her for doing it to begin with and thinking that it would be something different, but it's I'm not going to seek out the few episodes I haven't seen at this point. I mean, I know who wins.
Done. It's still the biggest one for me is just, I mean, I don't want to like call out somebody for not being comfortable on camera. It took me like years upon years to even be comfortable, and even then, try to put me on like an HBO Viceland show. I'm sure I'm awkward as hell. I can't say that I can do a better job than her. I'm not saying that I can do that, but actually, probably a little bit. Because really,
shots fired.
Yeah. She's very dry on camera. I'm not trying to put down her, but like, it's hard. Who actually can just be a person in regular life and then suddenly become someone that is natural on camera and be able to be a personality that's sort of like, you know, like. But how about this? The people that are homebrewers, I will say that consistently, I saw people that she was interacting with, homebrewers, that were able to explain their beers better and just felt more natural on camera than her going like, what's your beer? And they're like, well, this is an amber ale.
Well, of course,
like, oh, that's great.
And they have incentive to have that enthusiasm because in their mind,
but
they're on a game show.
She's the acting host of the show.
They're on a game show. Like, that's like saying that's like
beer.
saying that the people who like go on stage to play Plinko on The Price is Right are better actors than Bob Barker. It's like,
well, no, they don't have to do that.
Like,
but she's a host of a show.
Like, there's an exuberance that comes with
you have to be a host of a show. You have to do it well.
I would not, like, I'm not saying that she did a sterling job. I'm just, like, my impression of the show is that, like, it felt maybe slapped together. Like, there was like one or two takes tops for every little scene that they filmed, and they were just left with this like a whole bunch of footage, and they cut together and they cut out all of the actual like meaty, interesting stuff, and what they were left with was like a show that wasn't really a travel show, because you saw like the tiniest parts of Brooklyn or the tiniest parts of New Mexico that you would never go to as a tourist. But it wasn't a homebrewing show because they never actually talked about how to brew a beer, or like these styles, or what all these variations meant, or like why the woman who brewed a beer de garde, like in the final episode, this guy is like, oh, you brewed a beer de garde? That's like very strange for a homebrewer. Like, why? Like, what's a beer de garde? Like, they do.
I've seen one scene of the episodes I've watched that actually involves any kind of technical information. Other than that, it's like nothing.
It was probably an accident. They left it in by accident. Like, based on the rest of the show, they must have just like slipped through somehow, because there's so little information, and it doesn't have to be the type of show where like someone like me is watching it to learn how to improve. It doesn't have to be like that, but like I kind of want to see like what the process is. Like, how does it differ? Because like in different climates, different types of water, different types of ingredients available. Like, it's interesting to know like someone who brews in an apartment in Brooklyn and has to like stow their equipment like under one cabinet, or like that girl who like put it in like a false like radiator cover to like so that she wouldn't be embarrassed by her brewing equipment being all over her hallway, versus someone who has like acres in New Mexico or Northern California. Like, talk about the difference and like what it means to have space or have access to stuff. Like, there's just a ton of opportunities to explore that stuff, and it either was never recorded or never even made it into the or just didn't make it into the final cut of the show, and either way the product just suffered from it.
Cool. So what's your final take, explanation, final
final rating?
Just like give your final sentence or two about what you have to say about the show and all that good stuff. So.
Man, I feel like the season was like a C-
sure,
to a D+.
Okay.
I would love for them to try to do it again and learn from their mistakes. I doubt that they will.
Yep.
I don't know that the network is set up that way, but I'm glad that they tried.
Sure.
It's an interesting thing to explore, and TV is going that direction, like this smaller, more niche shows, but they just didn't do it in a good way.
Yeah. In the end, we don't have that much great mass-marketed beer content out there. I think it does an okay job. Again, my issue is still, the host. That literally is what pretty much your whole show relies on, is the interaction of the host. And most of the camera time is with that host, and you really want to find someone really interactive to push personality and something more out of the show. Not too much technical side, that's completely fine. In the end, it does a better job than World of Beer. Shots fired. World of Beer content, completely garbage. So it has something a little bit more fun than that. If you guys are foodies, Mind of a Chef is a show, and Chef's Table is a show. Chef's Table doesn't really play it. Again, there's not that much
Chef's
technical.
Table is really good.
But Chef's Table is so good, but it literally, you cannot learn how to cook on that show. No. It's about food. It's a documentary about like personality, life. So much about the show is not even about food. A good amount of the show is not about food, but we love it, and it is highly rated. And I think a lot of people that are foodies love that show.
Yeah.
Chef's Table, on the other end, plays with that kind of more technical side. Actually has recipes, ingredients, and all that. Famous chefs actually cooking on the show. So if you can play on that, I think the show would definitely improve. But in the end, right now, it's not a fun show. So until next time, guys, cheers.
Oh, what's your letter grade? I give it a letter grade.
Don't watch it. I
That's
have strongly recommend don't watch it.
I gave it a letter grade.
Actually, no, I have something in between don't watch it, but I actually put it don't watch it.
Okay, so F.
Sure. Whatever it is. Like it's not the worst show of all time, but it's don't watch it. So
okay.
Like I don't have like Darwin's beer review ratings 1, 2, 3, 4 something.
If you watch any episode, watch the New Mexico episode.
Sure. Watch an episode. Tell me what you think. I don't highly recommend it. So until next time, guys. Cheers. Later.